Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Blitz Racing Network. Here tonight, it's time to crown a champion for the Twigi iRacing series. This is the championship race. 26 races have set us up to this moment where we have four drivers put on the hot spot to see who can conquer and find themselves being the first ahead of their other competitors. As tonight, it's simple, it's easy. Whoever finishes the furthest ahead of these four drivers gets to win a championship. And those four drivers are going to be hunting down. They've been setting up. Some got a second chance at the playoffs. Others have been the dominant favorites, but others have found themselves in the playoff action, creeping up and finding themselves the true speed. Our four drivers we're going to be watching out for this evening: the Dominator, the driver with 11 wins out of our 26 races this season, Merrick Watchorn, who won this race all the way back in that of round number 3 to start this season off. This machine knows how to get to victory lane, but a lot of his competitors weren't racing at that Atlanta race. So tonight's going to be a little bit different if Merrick can get it done. The other drivers we got to worry about is going to be Elliott Drummond, who locked himself in 2 races ago at that at Richmond. He's hoping to find himself not being second fiddle no more to Merrick Watchorn. Then the driver that found himself earlier in the playoffs, finding himself just being consistent, being patient, and having some amazing speed. It's that of Jacob Elkins. But the driver that's made it to practically almost every race this season, he's been consistent. He got the second berth, and he got his first win last week. Could he get a championship? It's Patrick Hernandez. Those are your four drivers we're going to be watching out for this evening, with plenty of other drivers going to be on track with their competition. We cannot wait to give you all the coverage here again on the Blitz Racing Network. My name is Sam. With me is Matt, and Matt, qualifying just about to get done. It's almost time for us to go racing, and we're doubling the length for 162 laps.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a endurance race tonight, and it's going to be, really. I think it's going to be very similar to how it's been all season. You're going to see a lot of it, maybe give and take. The setup does seem to be it has a tight feeling, but it gets looser as they go through the corner. So I think it's going to be interesting with only having them. Really, the fuel tank can maybe take you about 32, 33 laps, and with 160 laps, I think that pit stops are going to be key, just like it has been all season.
It truly has. We've seen drivers win or lose on those pit stops, getting penalties for speeding or just missing their box completely. There's been some massive issues. We'll give you all the coverage again throughout the night. But again, drivers are set. They're getting gridded up. Let's take a look at where the drivers stack themselves up here this evening. The driver that's been dominating has been up front with the best poles all throughout this season. Merrick Watchorn going to be top of the board, with that of Alec Duffin going to be in that a second place. Then our other championship contender, Elliott Drummond, as well as Jacob Elkins, going to be in third and fourth. John Lynch, who gave up his spot to Patrick Hernandez, going to be qualifying in fifth spot, with Brendan Gregg, who missed out on the championship hope last week. He'll be starting in sixth place. Seventh, going to be John Bawalda Jr., with that of Kyle Smith. Maurice Gomillion ninth, with Nos Patton going to be in that of 10th. Dennis Crosby in 11th, and 12th going to be Doug Betts. Then we drop back even further in the field. We see that of Chris in the 27, James in the 4, as well as that is going to be seeing the 14 of Brewer, Doug Tuttle. But Matt, the absolute travesty for the 19, he's going to be in the last row, all the way back in 17th place, as well as Brendan Carroll, all the way back in 18th.
Yeah, it's going to put you in a very tough spot, but maybe he knows something that we don't know.
As we are getting ourselves rolling here, that is your starting grid for that of the Twigi iRacing Series Championship race. If you are watching live, go down in the chat. We've got ourselves a poll. Who do you think's gonna win? Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond, that of Jacob Elkins, or Patrick Hernandez? Put in your votes. We got 4 votes so far, and half of those votes already picking that of Merrick Watchorn to get the championship done. And Matt, I gotta say, Merrick certainly looks like the odds-on favorite.
Absolutely, he's shown speed all year long. He has the most wins out of anyone here this season. But as of late, that form has kind of not been as good, but I think this is a perfect opportunity to show why he's, the regular season champion.
Yeah, didn't win any of the races in our last round of 6. It was that of Riley Marbello, Elliott Drummond, and Patrick Hernandez that won. But last week, it was Merrick Watchorn that really pushed his teammate of Patrick Hernandez to that victory. But now, teammates no more. It's all about who's going to win the championship. Pace car is off into the restart zone, and we're green for the championship race here for the Twigi iRacing series as they go heading down into turn number 1.
Absolutely, like Elliott Drummond did, getting into the back of Merrick, getting him out in front. Now it's the front two are single file, and let the mayhem begin.
Let it go and let it conquer, as already blocking is going to be utilized as Merrick Watchorn defending the inside lane, not wanting to give up any of that space. And Matt, we're racing here at Atlanta. It's the old configuration, the driver's favorite configuration. Hot Atlanta, hot slick, but man, first lap goes to that of Merrick Watchorn.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are watching as well and you want to notice where the championship four are, just look for that green banner, spoiler, and splitter. Those four that have the green are the ones racing for championships. It makes it a lot easier to pick those people out.
It really does, as in our top 5, 3 of the 4 are there, as that of Patrick Hernandez, winner of last week at Talladega, is mired all the way back in 12th place currently, but he is our biggest mover so far, up 5 positions, qualified 17th, didn't put a qualifying time in, he's already on the move, but up front, single filing out is the whole entire field at this moment, until you fall back to deep, or in that top 10 window, but you see that 19 machine, Matt, he is already running that high line, and yes, he's carrying a lot of speed. He's making a lot of momentum, but this is old configuration of Atlanta. That's tough on those tires.
Yeah, but I think if you're trying to get used to it right now, being in that top lane, it's going to make it a bit easier for you to transition. But the guys who are right now on the bottom eventually have to get up there whenever the tires wear out. So being up there maybe can save you a little bit more. Like maybe at the end of the race, but right now it's going to be a bit tricky as he carries a lot of momentum down the backstretch.
And as he's trying to carry the speed, yes, he's got it there, and he's going to be catching up the back bumper of Nos Patton. And Patton's got to be careful for the 54 machine. He actually was removed and disqualified after the first incident at Talladega tonight, hoping for some redemption, but it's the last race of the season. Season 2 already has been made. Drivers are getting prepared. But for us, we will not be coming back for season 2. We hope the best for the Twigi iRacing series, but we're gonna give we're hoping for these drivers to give us the best show. And oh no, Hernandez and Patton is gonna be contact, and just in a blink of an eye, Matt, Patrick Hernandez already might have to use his fast repair.
Uh, yeah, he had a very slight touch on the inside wall, but I think he should be okay as far as damage wise. I don't think he'll need to get very much. I think he just needs to come in, just get the optional taken care of, and he should be able to be right back out there.
Also, was a pretty bad slide that the 19 had to have, but these drivers were given plenty of tires to work with. 7 in total, 4. I mean, that 7 in total, 6 in pit road to work with the ones that they started the race off. As we get to take another look at this incident, I mean, tire wise, certainly going to be something for these drivers to talk about because the fuel window being so shrunken down. But here's going to be that side by side working the outside lane, and I mean, just slight contact, and away that 19 goes.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if maybe um Nas just got maybe a little bit tight. I'm not sure like how much room he had, but
Oh my goodness. Matt, as we look at this replay, got reports into pit road, giving up the lead. Merrick Watchorn is going to be coming into pit road after this first caution.
yeah, it looks like Nas is kind of just got maybe a little bit loose, and it just washed up the track. And unfortunately, Hernandez was right there.
And he'll have to try to recover after that moment. But now, after pit stops are done, a little bit of topping off is the 91. He'll be starting all the way back in 15th. Also going to be that of Dennis Crosby, and also the 27 of Chris going to be getting some topping off with fuel. But it's going to be Patrick Hernandez into pit road, not going to be utilizing a fast repair. But the 19 does spend some time into pit road, didn't even use a set of tires. I like that call by the 19, but certainly a scary spot for the 19 after that big slide.
Yeah, it makes you kind of wonder, maybe, tire fall off. I'm not sure what the tire fall off is, but it maybe, Merrick, understands, and maybe that puts him in maybe a bit better spot as far as fuel wise, to make it maybe potentially on one last pit stop here for the race.
Hoping to save as much as they can. Do want to give note, one of the drivers has been warned that he needs to get he's just having some issues. That's the 33 of Doug Betts, who's having some internet issues, blinking all over the track, and has been given an EOL to go to the end of the line and potentially could be even asked to be leaving the server. That's always something that you hope doesn't happen. Well, we've seen drivers throughout the season have internet issues in plenty of other series that I've covered and watched, Matt and iRacing. That's kind of our unknown of a equipment failure is internet.
Absolutely, it's one of those things where like you don't realize it until you get really booted from a session. So hopefully he can get that taken care of so he can continue racing.
As we get ourselves stacked up and ready to go, it's going to be that of Elliott Drummond, John O'Lynch, as well as Alec Deffin's going to be in our top three with Jacob Elkins. Brandon Gray going to be finishing out our top five with John Buwalda Jr., Maurice Gomillion, Kyle Smith, Nos Pattington, as well as the four of James going to be up in our top 10. Ready to get rolling here again. Merrick Watchhorn giving up the lead to top off on fuel. He'll be all the way back in that a 14th position with his teammate that just got caught up in that wreck. But Spino is gonna be stacking up front and ready to get rolling as we're green once again here at Atlanta.
Absolutely. For Elliott Drummond and John Lynch, you really want to make sure that you work with your teammate to put yourself in a good spot. But that also you have two other teammates and Alex and Jacob, right behind them. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams, battle here.
As Alex going to be in that number 1 on our ticker, 48 on that of on track. Going to be rolling around this course in 3rd place. But Jacob Elkins, certainly this 9 machine, probably comes in as the biggest, one of the bigger underdogs. I think I would say, Matt, that both of our drivers that we had presumed were going to be fast to watch out for was going to be Elliott Drummond and Merrick Watchhorn. This 9 was an unknown on what he was going to bring coming into the playoffs, but certainly the speed has been there in every single round, and he's been one of the more consistent drivers when we look at the points through each round.
Absolutely. He's almost very Kevin Harvick-esque, and he's maybe not there at the beginning, but he's always there like at the end, and it's very consistent and always being there at the end. Very good points.
With tonight being a lot more on the strategy ends because of how long this race is going to be. Most of the races that we've ran before at these mile-and-a-half tracks throughout this season have been around that 100-lap marker. We're now going to be running 162 laps with a smaller fuel load than traditional other leagues would run. This race certainly going to be interesting to watch as there goes Merrick Watchhorn easily breezing by that of Maurice Gomillion and started first, got that pole. He dropped all the way back to 15th to top off on fuel, and Matt, in just a blink of an eye, this 91's already moved up to the middle of the field.
Yeah, he is right now consistently about 0.3 faster than our leader, and but he's also going through traffic. So maybe he's trying to use those tires as much as he can right now, and trying to put himself in a good position like later on.
And he's trying to work that outside lane. But you see the 90 machine of John O'Lynch in the pink and black and very loose up front. About to be passed here by the Shaw Racing drivers. Hey, let's try to go 3 wide up for that 2nd place spot. As it was John O'Lynch that said, I'm going to gas it up sooner than later. And he splits the middle as he was about to be passed by the 9 and the 48. And once again blocks and almost contact being made. This is very aggressive racing. We're just in the first 13 laps of this race. And that of John O'Lynch does not want Elliott Drummond to deal with any pressure.
Absolutely. That's called being a good teammate, but also that puts, Alex in a very difficult position where if he was to turn John O'Lynch, that also then puts Jacob in a very risky situation. And they have Merrick right behind them.
And Merrick, clips that of Brandon Gray, get into the wall. It's going to be that of St. Patrick Hernandez. Oh, and plenty of other drivers backing off. We stay green as the 2 slams into the wall, and major issues for the 19. He'll now drop back to 8th place and gonna have to deal with even more damage. Luckily didn't use that fast repair early on, but Patrick Hernandez pinched in the wall, a terrible spot for himself, and now gonna just have to limp this machine around as drivers. With that small incident, now gonna be seeing a lot more spacing up front. This is gonna be our small gaggle of drivers that could potentially bring out a caution, but as I say that, our front 5 getting racy once again.
Yeah, Alex trying to take to that outside. He saw that the inside was not going to work, so he took it to the outside, and now he's taking full advantage of the outside and the momentum that comes with it.
Went back and watched as it was actually going to be Kyle Smith that got sideways and collected up into the 2 as there's the heavy block again, putting Alec into the apron and collects that of John Lynch, and they go spinning across the field.
Yeah, that was almost inevitable as there's another car that slides up into the outside, but yeah, that was you want to risk being aggressive this early, and it just puts everyone in a really bad position.
Man, just aggressive driving between the 2, and interesting call being thrown over the radio, Matt, as we get to take a look at this replay. But Alec Duffins has now been issued a warning after contact between himself and the 90 machine. Going to be seeing that one, going to be finding himself with an issue. I mean, for Alec, he's trying just not even wreck the 90 machine, then tries to get back out on track and then clips just because of the momentum. That's a difficult call to make. That's to a drive. I mean, that I would say John Lynch more at fault than anything there.
Yeah, I think they're both really to blame. Um, it I know it's you want to block to protect your teammate, but it's one of those things too where maybe it's a little bit too early to be blocking all the way down to the to that white line. So it's it's questionable. I don't think Alex could take the full blame for that. I think it's kind of a mix of 50-50 between them.
Yeah, I would not give that to Alec either, but the issue of warnings have been thrown as a lot of drivers having issues just trying to get into their boxes. A little bit of scrapes and bumps and bruises going to be forcing some drivers into thinking about using their fast repair, spending a little bit extra time in pit road. Let's take another look from a different point of view on this incident.
Yeah, it almost looked like Hernandez almost got collected up again when he was checking up for it, and James, real quick reaction, dove it to the inside and avoided contact with Hernandez.
Oh, scary thoughts. Winding around is the 19. They stuck in traffic, but you're just gonna have to deal with it. But with a lot of drivers having to come into pit road and with damage repair for a lot of them, going to be seeing a little bit of a shakeup up front. Jacob Elkins now going to be the front runner with that of Merrick Watchhorn. Also, John Lynch going to be up front. Then it's Patrick Hernandez up to 4th. Maurice Gilmillion up to that of 5th, but I believe he'll be dropping back as that of Elliott Drummond's going to be in 5th place now as Brewer is slowly going backwards. But a driver that I'm curious on where he went. I mean, seeing all the way back that of Alec Duffins and others dealing with damage repair as they were in pit road for over 20 seconds or more in their box. And Elliott Drummond, one of those drivers that stayed in pit road for extended time.
Yeah, it maybe he had some damage that we didn't know about, but it definitely puts him in a position where maybe he's not all doing all that well.
Oh, just got word over the radio that of Elliott Drummond accidentally had his tires unchecked and had to check them while in pit road. That's why he lost all the time that he did.
It is a very simple mistake. I know I've done it before. I'm sure you've done it before, Sam, too. It's just one of those things where maybe you have this unchecked just a little bit, and you just forget to check them back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where self sabotage can be detrimental. And it's one of those things we talked about at the top of the broadcast. Simple mistakes could be costly in pit road on if you're going to win a championship or not. But all four championship contenders in our front four. Let's go racing once again here at Atlanta. Oh no, contact deep in the field. It's going to be that Dennis Crosby and Brewer making contact with one another, and yellow flag strikes again. Matt, again, earlier this week, the drivers were given a choice. Do we want to extend this race to 162 laps? Well, I guess if they want a lot more green flag racing, that was a good call. But if they want to be here for a while playing Pace Simulator, this is going to be a long one. We're taking a look here. 14's having just drivers got loose, and there they go.
Yeah, it looks like Alex got into the back of Crosby and kind of just got him a lot looser than he wanted to, just, and that threw him down into Brewer. So it looks like not being very patient from Alex.
And got over the radio Alex stating that he felt like he got distracted because the 14 was blinking, and simple distractions certainly could throw you off. But drivers getting aggressive, but the contacts haven't been so bad. The drivers have been forced to use their fast repairs. So far, only one driver has used their fast repair, and that's the 55 of Kyle Smith. As everyone else comes into pit road to get service done, we're only 22 laps in of 162. And what a season we've had so far, as this is the second time this season these drivers have been at Atlanta. It was all the way back at the start of the season for race number 3 when these drivers were here. They ran that of 80 laps in total back then, and it was Merrick Watchorn led 43 laps of that race and found himself in victory lane. But the only other contenders in that race that were racing then was Brandon Gregg, Patrick Hernandez, Brandon Carroll. Those were the only 4 drivers that were involved with that 9-car field. And we have ourselves 18 drivers here this evening. That means that is 14 new drivers that were not here at the start of the season. That's why we're seeing the competition raise a little bit more. And Merrick Watchorn not looking as dominant, but he also gave up that track position. Now we get to see how well he can recover as we wait for that 1 to go meter.
Yeah, it has been nice to watch, and you really get to take in this league's growth, and it has been really a good growth so far, and to have consistently this many people show up from week to week to week, it just shows to the effort that the admin teams have put in.
I also want to give a shout out to everyone that shows up and actually is viewing these races. Thank you to those that come in. I know Nancy Hickok's always in the chat. It's always great to see your comments when you're watching and cheering for everyone out on track, as well as everyone else that gets to watch and everyone that was a part of the voting on who you thought was going to win the championship here tonight. Well, out of everyone that voted, 60% thought that Merrick Watchorn was going to win, 20% thought maybe Elliott Drummond, and then Jacob Elkins as well got 20%. Biggest underdog of the night and knew he was coming in, Patrick Hernandez. Not a lot of faith in that 19 machine, but Matt, if it could survive all the chaos and he's there at the end, who knows what could happen.
Absolutely, it's been a very rough start for him this race, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I know that's how he's shown all year long. So I fully expect him to be consistent, be up at the front now as he's been up here now. Even though he started way down the field, he's up to 4th.
Yeah, he is our biggest mover, currently up 13 positions, as our first official DNF is in the books. The 14 of Chaz Brewer going to be the first driver who is out after his blinking issues. We saw it on that last replay for this most recent incident. He's decided to call it quits and is done. Going to be our first driver out of 18. Currently 17 drivers still out there on track. A little bit of repair still being done for some drivers. For that 27 of Chris, he is certainly hoping to get back out on track, and is, as it's going to be up front. Still our final four contenders. There are the drivers with the green banners, spoilers, and splitters out there on their trucks. Then fifth place is John Bualda Jr., that of Maurice Gomillion, Jono Lynch. And Matt, I'm curious on Jono Lynch. How is he going to be able to move forward in this field? And can he get back to defending and his aggressive blocking to try to help his teammate out as we're about to get ourselves back to green flag racing as we're trying to get stacked back up. A lot of spacing between everybody as we're in turns 3 and 4. And here we go. Stack them up, get them ready. It's time to get back to racing here at Hot Atlanta. The start of lap 25, and we are green once again.
A really good jump by Jacob. Oh, and we got a spinner on the 55 on the front stretch.
And he's going to be in the grass because he's off track. We will stay green for Kyle Smith. Some drivers complaining and wanting to see if they can get a yellow flag. It is not going to happen, but up front, it's going to be Jacob Elkins and that Merrick Watchorn side by side for the lead as the 91 going to be throwing it down low, hugging that white line, drifting up just slightly as he's going to be finding himself trying to get the momentum. And it's going to be Watchorn at the line, but that 9 machine, Jacob Elkins, the momentum is there and allows him to keep that speed where he's at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, like, you want to be on the outside, to save your tires a little bit more as we see him do the undercut, using that momentum to get on the inside of Merrick Watchman.
He's going to be making the move, and as that 9 machine ducks it down low, also behind them for that 4th place position, Jono Lynch has moved up into 4th, pushing Patrick Hernandez back to 5th. And here comes Elliott Drummond. And if those Spino drivers can get in line and catch up and try to wrestle the feathers of that of Elkins and Watchorn, that is going to be trouble, especially with the aggressive driving we've already seen the 90 machine being willing to do to help his teammate win this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the Spino guys have shown speed all year long as well. So it's been interesting and fun to watch, the competitiveness between, Shaw Racing, the Watchhorn, esports and Spino. Really just to watch, the competition between those 3 teams has been absolutely amazing to watch all year.
It really has, and it's been interesting to watch out just the teammate factor on how these drivers want to run around with one another. I mean, Merrick Watchorn and Patrick Hernandez, they've been true teammates. A lot of the helpfulness has gone towards Merrick Watchorn getting to victory lane, except for last week when you saw that flip-flop and Patrick Hernandez getting the true assistance. Jacob Elkins, on the other hand, truly getting to see some help from his teammates, but they kind of got wiped out in an instant, and now Spino Racing, who really, I think Spino as a whole, as an average of the whole entire team's strength, I think that's the team to watch out for if you see them get any closer as front runners continue to race on into pit road. An unexpected pit stop for Nos Pattington.
As we see the field, really start to, thin out and kind of, break away from each other. Now it kind of allows us to have a bit of a green flag run here to really so these guys can really feel out, see how the trucks are going to be on the long run, see if maybe they need to, adjust their line, as the run goes on, and maybe they can find things, maybe for a later run.
I mean, Matt, I know for you, you've done a lot of racing on iRacing here. When it gets to these long runs, when you find yourselves into a 30-lap run, how difficult is it truly to save those tires? Because in my mind, I feel like 30 laps really isn't that long of a run for these drivers to work on.
Especially here, at Atlanta, the tire fall off is just absolutely enormous. Like, even if you just have a couple laps older tires than someone else, the time difference is, night and day pretty much. But there are a couple things that you could do to make your tires last a bit longer. You can maybe run, in the middle, instead of trying to go all the way to the bottom, and do the shortest line at the beginning of a run. Put your left sides on that first seam. As we see, a lot of them are running that seam, in turn 1 and 2. That seam gets you close enough to the bottom, as we see, Doug Total, kind of ran that seam on entry. And that's kind of like what you want to do is run that seam on entry just so it kind of opens up that exit later on, so you're not scrubbing the front tires as much.
And trying to make as much as they can is you got that at 33 and 86. Watch out, they might do the Dougie as we got both Dougs in line, as well as seeing that of the four. James behind following in suit. Four trying to go to the inner lane, trying to see if he can carry that momentum as well as he can, as this is some of the closest racing on track, as well as for our lead is where the closest racing action is on track. On top of that is Jacob Elkins and Elliott Drummond. Completely different lanes are being utilized at this moment up front. You got our front two of Merrick Watchorn, Jacob Elkins, willing to run their own lanes, and behind them, squirreliness, Jono Lynch and Patrick Hernandez making a little bit of contact.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of the non-playoff drivers, you want to be cognizant of like what's going on with the championship four, but also like you don't want to just roll over and just let them by. You want to still race your own race, but and you also maybe be a little bit aggressive, knowing that they don't want to risk the chances and put themselves in a bad spot. So it's really going to be a give and take for the next 128 laps.
So long, still a whole about a lot of racing to go. I mean, they're not even done with the extra laps that were added on top of the original 80 that were projected at the beginning of the season. The drivers were going to run. We're only on that of lap 35 of those 162. Update on that battle for fourth place. Patrick Hernandez, Jono Lynch thought there was contact. There was none between the drivers. Jono Lynch had to back off, got squirrely, almost brushed the outside wall. Patrick Hernandez reacted, got himself sideways to miss that of the 90 machine. But up front, the two different lanes being utilized. I mean, Matt, top of the race, started to see Patrick Hernandez use that outside lane, and you talked about out as the run progresses on, that outside lane going to be more prevalent. But right now, I mean, we're seeing the three different lanes being utilized. I mean, I gotta love the fact that we're seeing this type of racing here at Atlanta.
Absolutely, that is the one thing that Atlanta and like several other tracks allow you to do is be able to utilize all the lanes on the track. But yeah, it really allows people to really race and really just drive their car how they feel their car needs to be driven. So as we see a battle here for second place now.
Second place is on the charge as that of Elliott Drummond, making that inside lane work. And I think the main thing that's helping him is getting back on the throttle with a lot more confidence than Jacob Elkins. Elkins seems a lot more on the favoriting that throttle on the exit, just trying to make that rear end not snap on him. He's been not looking as secure. If you look at the small little details the 19's running. I mean, that 9's running.
Absolutely, this is where the dividends of maybe how you ran the first part of this run is maybe starting to pay off, and maybe it's starting to hurt some people. So maybe Elkins maybe was pushing a little bit too hard at the beginning of the stage, and now it's really starting to hurt him now.
As drivers are already, we're 20 laps into this stint on these tires, and these drivers are running about a full second slower than their fastest time. Some almost running a full second and a half slower than their fastest time. So drivers already starting to feel that tire degradation hit, as they're around that at 10 laps away from hitting pit road if we stay green.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those tracks where you do not want to be the first one. You definitely want to be after the people in front of you. You might give up some time, when they are on the track, but those tires throughout the full run are going to be very big compared to a one lap race.
Is lap traffic also going to be a factor here, as we're seeing Merrick Watchorn and others slowly starting to catch up to that of Nos Patton, who's going to be under trouble for the 54, who came into pit road, unscheduled pit stop, got tires, fuel, got back out there, but is just running so much slower than the rest of the field. But as our leaders starting to split off from one another, aggressive driving happening back for fifth place. There is quite a gaggle of cars, that about 8 of them that are all in line, very close. About a second and a half is the distance between that of fifth all the way back to 11th place.
Yeah, like you know, The top ones have checked out, but yeah, it's still getting very racy here in the back, in the mid pack. So, I mean, really a good race by John Buwalda Jr., who have we've seen throughout. Ooh, get a little squirrely there from John Lynch, but yeah, like just a huge shout out, to John Buwalda Jr., who has maybe struggled a little bit throughout the season, but he's showing some really good pace here this weekend.
I was just about to say, I think we're gonna jinx him and put him in the safe spot he's had for the last couple of weeks. If a good run and then mistakes come after we shot him out, and there he goes through the grass, losing 3, 4, 5 positions in an instant. And oh, he almost gets even more contact with the 4. We're so sorry, John. We'll keep our mouth shut and let's see how well
The
you do moving
commentator's
forward.
curse.
Oh man, that 5 machine, if he could just survive and make it to the end, a top 5 finish is certainly there for John Buwalda Jr., but obviously it has been a struggle. He's got one top 5 for that 5 machine all season long, and that was mired all the way back at Kentucky earlier in the season. As John Lynch, trouble into the wall and coming back down, we stay green somehow as the 90 machine is blown up engine. He's done, and he'll have to take a tow to pit road.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. He's showing some really good pace, but maybe his the very aggressive style of this final racing team has maybe been him in the way.
He just got loose out of the corner, and ironically, the driver that he hit that launched John back up into the outside wall was Alec Duffins, and Duffins was someone that was just running his own line. Both drivers understanding that it was not a purposefully contact; it was just a coincidence. And the 90 machine now has to go into pit road, and I know for Nancy, that's the last thing she wants to see for that 90 machine.
Yeah, but I mean, besides Alex getting into him, it was good avoidance by everyone else to understand and see what was going on with him and being able to make quick reactions and quick avoidance.
And now we have to reset, see what's going to happen again. Luckily for John Lynch, he was able to, limp the 90 machine to pit road. Now he's going to hope that he had his fast repair clicked on, and he does. The 90 machine should be back out on track. And it was just going to be about 5 laps sooner than some of these drivers might be thinking about coming into pit road. Not the worst thing in the world, but is going to need at least a caution. John Lynch wants to get back into the mix for at least a top 5 run. As we're taking a look here at the battling for 3rd place, Patrick Hernandez, Matt, that 19 machine's looking good, and he's running the same pace as our leaders.
Yeah, he's been taking care of his tires very well, all race long. So I mean, he has shown all season that he's been very good and very consistent at taking care of those front tires, so he can be this much quicker at the end of a run.
Setting it up. Now, where do you want to place yourselves as, with that advantage, Matt, of utilizing so much of the track through the corners? Some factor we haven't really talked about that much. Dirty air. How is that affecting these trucks here this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, that's where Jacob is trying to place his truck, trying to really drive out of his rearview mirror to put himself in a spot where he's pretty much forcing Hernandez to drive in his tire track, which is going to take air off of that front end of the 19 and maybe make him work a little bit harder in the corners, which is going to burn his tires up a little bit more.
And these drivers have just entered the window of expected times to hit pit road in the next about 3 to 4 laps. We're expecting drivers to come in for a stop as Merrick Watchorn about a second over that of Elliott Drummond, but this battle for 3rd. Again, it's always get to the championship races, Matt, and it always seems like if you're gonna win the championship, if it's whoever is in the has the best finish wins the championship. It always seems like you have to win the race to win the championship.
I definitely think so too. I think really with how tight, really how competitive this league has been since a lot of the new people have joined. It's been a lot of fun to watch and see how really competitive, because yeah, you've really had, and it's been very satisfying to watch people win because you can just hear it in their voice when they do win, how tight and fierce the competition has been, and just their joy and elation like in their voice.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Elkins, one of those that was so ecstatic when he finally could say that he was a winner. when he found himself in victory lane at Las Vegas to start the play, you know, earlier in the playoffs in that round of 10. That's been his one win. He's finished in second place 3 times this season. And honestly, this 9 machine has been trying to look for a lot more consistency. He's been loving it, but now is crunch time. We talked about how important pit road is. Let's see those first couple of pit stops under green. Here comes Jacob Elkins and Patrick Hernandez.
Yeah, he definitely was being aggressive and maybe pulled out a little bit of a gap on Hernandez, going into the pit stop. So, for these two, to come in now, it almost kind of forces Merrick and Elliott to maybe come in the next few laps.
And gonna be seeing drivers do not want to be caught speeding on entry or on exit. As gonna be seeing that of Patrick Hernandez leaving his box looking good. Merrick Watchorn now hits pit road for the 91. The driver was caught speeding, and that's going to be James in the number 4 machine. Was caught speeding, had to be held for 40 seconds. And Matt, 40 seconds is a long time, especially at this fast of a course.
Absolutely. The lap times are, kind of in the low 30s. So you're going to be losing a lap for sure, especially in pit road. You're going to lose another lap. So fully expect him to go, 3. Oh,
Oh,
Elliott drifting. Oh, it
oh,
slides wide. That might be an unsafe penalty. So we'll see if he gets into that.
and right now I'm watching the flag stand to see if a black flag will be indicated to that 29 machine. You also saw that Brendan Carroll, he was completely sideways. A couple of other drivers have had issues getting into their box. Doug Betts was another driver that spun out on entry. So drivers, biggest issue is just by getting into the pit entry, and no penalties going to be given to the 29, Matt. That is a lucky condition for that 29 machine.
Yeah, that is another lucky break, and sometimes you need to be lucky to win a championship. So we'll see how Ellie Drummond fares out here.
As these drivers continue to race out, all drivers now have hit pit road, as Alec Duffin's going to be that last driver to hit pit road. And also, excuse me, waiting for the 27 of Chris to hit pit road. And as well, that of Brennan Gregg, as Merrick Watchorn looks to be the first driver to take the lead out of his box, but he was one of the drivers that waited to the middle of that pit cycle to finally come into pit road. That little bit of a Goldilocks effect could be what puts Merrick Watchorn in the best position to continue to pull away from everyone else.
Yeah, and it's so far, it's been pretty clean, pit stops. I know that was a couple things where, the beginning of the season or really in the middle, as we see, Merrick, you're trying to deal with some lap traffic here, but it was one of the things that kind of hindered Merrick, during the season where, he had a shot to win Indianapolis, but had some incidents in the pit road.
We've seen plenty of other, drivers. I think it's Sam Brochu earlier in the season. Elliott Drummond himself has had pit road issues. You just talked about Merrick Watchhorn's problems. That is going to be a talking point throughout the night. Again, because the fact that the fuel window for these drivers is around that of 30 to 34 laps, the drivers have to make a lot of green flag pit stops if this race stays green. And Matt, we already just saw in our first stint of green flag pit stops how difficult it is just to get into pit road. That is a lot of different chances, and I'd imagine they're hoping that they'll get better as this race progresses on.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta is a pretty tough track to get down at pit road because there is a lot of banking in the corners, and you're kind of trying to get slowed down. And then when you get down to the apron, it's a very rough transition from high banking to low banking, slippery apron with how much dirt and marbles are down below the apron. But yeah, it's super tough. You kind of have to pick out a spot. I know for whenever I try to get down to pit road, I always use those billboards that you see on on the corners. I would pick out a sign or like when the signs would start on really and then base my breaking point off those. So it it is a very tough pit in the road to get down to.
Our first green flag pit cycle is done. Driver leading the way, Merrick Watchorn. You see the gap that is between first and second place, 4.5 seconds before this pit cycle even started. It was around that of a second, almost a second and a half, 3 seconds gained by Merrick Watchhorn, just proving the very good entry and also that of the exit for the 91, helping tremendously. But for Elliott Drummond, that poor entry into pit road of going through the grass, that lost them so much time. And now, with just having that of a lap advantage on having newer tires, it's not a big advantage to have to try to close in on a 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tall order and tall asking price, but it it is a spot where maybe Elliott could be trying to set up for something later on in the race. Maybe wanted to extend his run, but I mean, with how many more laps to go, it's still really anyone's ball game.
As John Lynch going to be putting the pressure just for a quick moment, but just doesn't have the tires to even try to defend to stay on the lead lap. As after our first pit cycle is done, 10 drivers were on the lead lap. Well, let's make it 9 after John Lynch being passed. Kyle Smith's the next driver in line to be passed, put a lap down. And if we stay green, Matt, at the pace that Merrick Watchhorn is driving, he is most likely going to put that of almost everyone a lap down except for our top six.
Yeah, he's trying to put himself in this position where if anything happens, you're kind of doing your damage control in a way of making sure that people are not gonna maybe potentially you know bully their way late in the run or late when there's a late race caution. So, but he's proving again why he's the number one driver and why he won the regular season championship. He hasn't had all that great of a playoffs. He's had issues almost in every single race. So, to see him out front dominating this week, it has to be a fresh breath of air for him, in this race.
Yeah, I mean, you threw out bullying. I would say that was the perfect word to state how Merrick Watchorn was beating up this field heading into the playoffs. I mean, looking at the stats from right before coming into this race, Merrick had led of all the laps that he had completed, the races that he had shown up. He had led over that of half of the race. As Nos Patton has been removed from the server after very poor racing in front of Merrick Watchorn, and Watchorn said, "You know what? You're out of here." He did not. Merrick did not want to deal with Nos almost making contact with the 91. He said, "Get him out of here."
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate because obviously, if for some of the newer guys, you want to get your seat time, to get potentially better. But yeah, it's tough to say, especially in this big of a race to be a moving chicane.
Yeah, I mean, he got removed last week because they just didn't feel comfortable with him out on track, and it's an odd thing for a league. I mean, that's why there are iRacing, iRating minimums. iRating is the way that you're kind of your ranking, you could say, that iRacing gives you by running official races. And for NASA, he has one of the lowest I ratings I think I've ever seen a driver try to even attempt to do league racing with. And I think some of the talent that he's shown out there, it's just more of a patience, I would say, for that 54 that he needs, more than probably being more aggressive like he's trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. But this position, this third place position battle, it was there before pit stops, and it's here again after pit stops.
And right now, looking at this battle for third, I mean, it was an easy peasy pass. Jacob Elkins in the much better advantage in some fashions, as he has been a lot more aggressive on moving forward. But we've seen in the long run that 19 has been the faster driver as they're closing up on lap traffic. And that's when I think the factors of how is lap traffic going to influence this battle that we've been watching all night long.
And I think if you're Elkins, you're kind of waiting to see like where they go, watching where they enter the corner, so you can adjust and put yourself in a spot where you're still getting fresh air onto that front nose. But when they're battling side by side like they were through 3 and 4, it's very hard to pick a spot.
And also, they're on much older tires, so the closing rate's going to be something difficult to judge as They're all running three different lanes, but it's very close, compact, different close lanes. As John Lynch going to just back off, let that Patrick Hernandez and also Elkins move forward. Now the question is for the four. How will James get out of the way, or will he just hold his line in the middle of this field, in the middle of this road? Because if anything, that would help Jacob Elkins more if he could figure out how to pinch the 19 still high.
Yeah, but I think if you're Hernandez, you don't want to waste too much time. You definitely want to use that momentum to get, beneath the four car like you're going to the backstretch, and exactly what he does.
A little bit of contact, almost even
Oh,
more brushing going on as the 19 has been running that middle to outside lane this whole entire time. The four running that same exact run and just wasn't able to adapt. More of a contact brushing happening in that moment.
yeah, it definitely seems like Hernandez was dead set on running that outside and kind of put himself in a very risky situation by almost turning himself, on the four's nose. But it it's one of those things where like you being in the championship four, you have to be very cognizant and aware of what is going on around you.
And Jacob Elkins is starting to see a familiar face and someone that he wants to see moving up to fourth place. That is Alec Deffens, who's going to be closing in on the gap. He's got slightly fresher tires than the 19 and the 9. Is that of the one or the 48 on screen now side by side with Patrick Hernandez. And I got to say, for that one, he certainly has had an eventful night so far as he'll now try to duck it down low, try to make this pass as soon as possible as that of Hernandez has to get back into the throttle. Here comes that momentum on the front stretch.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch how Hernandez and Alex have really just been in a position where they've been a part of a lot of the action. So, oh, Hernandez very loose there on the outside.
And he is trying everything to hold on. This has been a much different stint for the 19. It was so strong on the long run. Now just floundering to hold on to what positions he has currently. And I think that could be a major difference for Patrick Hernandez is the fact that he might be in that zone of I need to keep up with Jacob Elkins instead of what he did on that first green flag run stint of just run his own race, protect those tires, and then catch up to the 9 machine on the longer run instead of this aggressive driving. I think lap cars also kind of changed that switch of he had to stay aggressive.
Yeah, he definitely was trying to work hard and really work that right rear a little bit more than what he wanted to, and I think that's why he's just so loose because really it's just going to be how you attack the corner. If you attack the corner really hard, do a really hard entry, it's going to burn up your right front, which is going to make you a little bit tighter as the run goes on. Where if you try to be a little bit more aggressive on the exit, you're going to wear your right rear a little bit more, which is going to make you looser as the run goes on.
Well, this race is starting to lay out a very interesting moment for these drivers as we are now 10 laps away from expecting drivers to hit pit road. 10 to 12 laps is the window we're looking at. And then we still have at least one, maybe even two more pit stops to take us to the end. Matt, we are now closing in to halfway. And also, where these drivers would have finished this race if they didn't change up. Patrick Hernandez is into the inside wall. Just a little bit of a graze, that rear bumper. The tires are gone.
Yeah, I think if you're him, you don't want to lose too much time. As we see him still getting squirrely there on the apron, I think it's one of those things where maybe do a little bit of damage control and maybe take a risk and pit right now.
I mean, if he pits now, still going to be inside the window that everyone else is. He's just going to be about 10 laps off of everyone else. It's probably not the winning strategy, but it's at least something to minimize the issues that he's been dealing with. But man, if anything, I think this might help Jacob Elkins because now he doesn't have that pressure of knowing Patrick Hernandez is on his back bumper. This 9 now just going to graciously give the 2 machine, Brendan Gregg, that positioning. Now, Gregg is 1 lap down. He's the second car 1 lap down. He's trying to catch up to Kyle Smith, who just exited that of turn 2. And now the 2 is exiting turn 2. So quite a big of a gap between That of Kyle Smith and Brandon Gregg, but Gregg still trying to get and become the first car lap down. So if there is a yellow, you would get that lucky dog spot. But for the 9, fourth place running currently, almost 10 seconds back from our leader. And speaking of our leader, Elliot Drummond, I got to give huge kudos to the 29. He is cut down by that of a second and a half on Merrick Watchhorn.
Yeah, I think those slightly fresher tires that he has, even though they're only one lap advantage, maybe Merrick, pushed his tires a little bit too hard there at the beginning of the stage, but I mean, with how many laps left we have in this run, it kind of makes you maybe rethink maybe staying out and maybe pitting that one lap earlier than the guy in front of you to take advantage of those fresh tires for that one lap. I think that might be the call here for the rest of the race because with how limited their fuel is, it makes it to where those fresh tires are not going to be as big of an advantage later in the run.
And the driver's talking about loose sensation, how it's been racking up and getting worse. The interesting thing, Matt, is you would think that the driver's dealing with a lot more of a loose condition. The track temp would be raising with that situation. What's interesting is that it's doing the reversal. Track temp is cooling off. And it's down when they started this race around 102 degrees was the track temp. It's now down to just 90 degrees for the track temps. So drivers Dylan, yes, still hot track, but much cooler than it was before.
Absolutely. With the cooler conditions, yes, you have a little bit more better grip, but also with that grip, it does make the front tires grip a little bit more, which will cause the car to be a little bit more looser. But it's one of those things where maybe you change the. It's going to be one of those things where not necessarily because obviously this is a fixed set of league, and they're not allowed to fix anything. But you change your lines and how you drive, so that's going to be the one thing to see is how will these guys change their lines throughout a run to help them at the end of the run.
Well, maybe we got to change the strategy. Patrick Hernandez hits pit road, the first of our playoff contenders on this second round of green flag pit stops. And assignment of this stop still gonna be a two stop, one pitting here and maybe even a second one. Now here comes that of Elliot Drummond, and it's actually gonna be Merrick Watchhorn that looks to be staying out the longest of our front runners.
Yeah, I think uh, Elliott learned from his last pit stop and now is trying to take full advantage of this one. As we maybe see, it's because Watchhorn stays out one more lap, so that's going to give huge advantage to Elliott Drummond here, potentially to close that gap and maybe even take the lead from Watchhorn.
He's gonna at least close it in. Now, the big thing for Merrick Watchhorn is if he comes in at this point, he should still be pretty close to Elliot Drummond and might even be able to take the lead, even with giving up all of this time. But he's going to be trying to go on the outside of John Bullard Jr. He's going to be going for another lap. No, he's got to back off both John Bullard Jr. and the 91. That's going to be hurting Merrick Watchhorn on the entry of pit road. And John Bullard Jr. caught speeding on entry.
Oh, as we see, Bawalda Jr. kind of be slow on pit road, which caused Merrick to try to take evasive action. But yeah, that's gonna be huge implications, and hopefully, he's able to recover from that. But that is the struggle of trying to make a deep dive into pit road.
And also, same time coming into pit road, going to be that of Jacob Elkins for the 9. 4 tires and fuel and get back out there is the best that you can do for these drivers. Here comes that of Alec Daffin's going to be getting himself some service into pit road. As adding on to that, John Bualda Jr.'s speeding on entry. John Lynch, also, who came into pit road 8 laps ago, was also caught speeding and got a 40-second hold as to the outside, flying as fast as they can, comes the field as everyone's getting their service done. But Eric Watchhorn, Matt, still holding the lead, and he's got a second gap over that of Eric Watchhorn and continuing to try to pull away.
Yeah, he was able to close 2.5 seconds closer to him, but even despite Merrick having some issues on coming onto pit road and in pit lane, now it kind of makes me wonder, did Elliott have some issues that we didn't see while he was out there?
Well, it was like 4 seconds that he was dealing with for around that time, and he was only gaining about that of a second or two each lap over that American Watchhorn. Watchhorn then got held up, but a little bit slower on that stop was Elliott Drummond, so not a complete gain in the full cycle, but at least is a much closer to the 91 after that stop. And you've got to take those little gains. And at this point, now might turn into what are you going to do? Because from the time that those drivers came into pit road, Matt, they can't make it on one more stop. They're gonna have to think about a stop and maybe even just a stop and go quick stop after this first initial stop, or you might just think about splitting this stint. Be as aggressive as you can for 20 laps, then come into pit road and take yourself to the end.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the best move to do, but also it kind of maybe puts, some people in a spot where maybe you don't split it. Maybe you come in a little bit earlier, this next time to put yourself in a spot where maybe you take advantage of fresher tires for a longer distance of time and kind of just wait and hope that puts you out far enough ahead to where when as soon as they catch you, you're able to make your final pit stop and take advantage of even better tires again. So there's still a lot of strategy wise, but I know, Sam, throughout this whole season so far, whenever there's been strategy, a potential strategy wise, a late race caution would always come out.
Yeah, it always seems to throw this thing away, but there have been some drivers out of this race. We started with 18 drivers, we're down to just 14 on track and only 6 on the lead lap as Chris in the 27, the 4 of James, also going to be out of this race. They've called it quits as Nos Patton's been disqualified from this race, was actually removed before potentially wrecking out Merrick Watchhorn. Watchhorn went with the protect myself over other drivers. And as well, Brewer was our first DNF of the night. Well, these drivers, majority of them have already made 3 stops. One was under our multitude of yellows that we had at the start of this race. And then we've had 2 green flag pit stops go on through. We are past halfway. And Matt, we're also past when this race was originally scheduled to be only 80 laps in total. We're now on lap 90. These drivers wanted to race a little bit longer, but the fuel stint certainly has made things a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely become more of an endurance race for you guys here. And it kind of allows maybe more strategy to happen, which is now exactly where we're at. So in some ways, if you're Merrick, you kind of wish it would have stayed at the initial 80 mark because you definitely would have won. But now essentially the race resets. We're back down to zero. Essentially reset to where this is where the race would have started. So it does put you in a tricky situation where maybe you know as the temperature starts to go down, maybe that will start to favor some people who haven't had the best of time of saving their tires.
Going to be difficult to make all these hard decisions as we're watching currently the battling going on for 11th place, as well as seeing some other lap cars having some fun in between, as Brendan Carroll as well as Dennis Crosby, they're going to be the ones battling with one another. Stuck in the middle, though, is the 55 of Kyle Smith. And Smith, he's got his eyes launched on the car that's ahead of the 10 machine. So a little bit of flip flop racing, but lap cars, lead lap cars. Some of these drivers are 2 laps down in racing with one another. It's crazy to see the difference that's going on. But Matt, our first driver of our 4 that we're racing for our championship, going a lap down. Patrick Hernandez, 6th place. Only our top 5 are on the lead lap.
Yeah, the pace that really the top two have had has been absolutely insane. But if I don't know if you noticed it, Sam, but that gap that Elliott has brought down has now imploded up to a 3.8-second gap. So those 2 lap tires, really those 2 lap older tires that Elliott did, it has really shot himself in the foot and really has backfired on him.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it's a flip of a coin, you either stay out, you hope that maybe the strategy will work out where you'll have a big enough gap lead or a big enough gap difference on your tires that maybe you can close in on the gap. Or you do the undercut and hope that the driver in front of you stays out long enough that the tire difference is so massive that maybe you can build up a big enough lead that they can't catch up to you. And for that of Elliott Drummond, he did not build up a big enough lead. He actually wasn't even able to pass Merrick Watchhorn, even with those 2 lap advantages on the tires. And now he's feeling the pain. The tires are starting to fade. They're gone. And that gap that was once only just 3 seconds difference, well, it's now 4 seconds as we continue to watch the battling for 11th place. That's also starting to expand more and more. And now the talking points are turning into the next stop. When is it? And that next stop could be so important on when you want to come into pit road because it's going to set up once your next stop's going to be. And Matt, we're now inside of the window. You can pit here and you're still going to be in a spot to make your second pit stop. And drivers are all in a two stop situation. It's on how you want to break up this stint to the very end.
Yeah, it's pushing it a little bit right here. I think you'll lose too much time on the older tires, like once that everyone else spits. But I definitely see people potentially coming in about 5 to 7 laps, to come in and really just run it to the end as far as like just running out the fuel and then making your last pit stops when you absolutely have to. Uh, yeah, because we're about halfway through a run. So if you pit now, you're gonna have about if people do run it all the way to the end, really you have a half a stint to take advantage of full fresh tires. So it's gonna be interesting to see maybe who takes a little bit of a risk. Maybe if you're Hernandez, you're kind of in a spot now where you can take the risk and really because you're already in last place of the championship four. Maybe you take a little bit of a risk to put yourself in a much better spot later on.
Feel like for Hernandez, he's in a tricky spot where he really can't take that risk at all. Like he's the last car on the lead on the last car a lap down, so he's in a lucky dog spot. He just got past Duck Tuttle, so maybe now he can try that gutsy strategy. I think Jacob Elkins is in a spot where he might be able to take advantage if we stay green to make this strategy work. But again, there's such a huge risk to reward for some drivers in their mind. They just feel like it's much better to get a better finish. But if you want a championship, you got to try something gutsy. If you're just going to follow the leader, then you're following the leader. You're not going to be able to try anything different to get an advantage. And, Elliott Drummond, he tried something on that last stop. He's going to might have to go full swing. But man, this is now the championship cut line. 100 laps in. Here we go. 62 laps to go. We've got at least 2 more stops to finish out this race. I mean, Matt, it's time to see who's got the gutsy call as Merrick Watchhorn now up to 4.5 seconds over Elliott Drummond.
Yeah, it's been a very consistent, just absolutely just dominating race so far. By Merrick, he hasn't really put a foot wrong this race, but hopefully we don't give him the commentator curse. But really, this has been his pace and really his dominance that he's had really all year, and just putting himself in a position where he's hasn't had to take a risk. We have seen throughout these playoffs.
Oh,
Oh boy.
John O. Lynch. This is he didn't want to bring out the yellow, but he was the yellow, and it's a interesting spot. Oh man. John O. Lynch is hoping that he's not the yellow causer, but he is the yellow causer. Well, throw strategy out the window, Matt. And for Patrick Hernandez, he's now in a tricky spot because he is a lap down. He is not the lucky dog position. As we see that of John O. Lynch get loose, go down. And what's interesting is he actually, I'm pretty sure he could have moved forward and he would have been all right, but he goes extreme backup, gets his rear tire onto the racing surface, and that's what brings out our yellow. And John O. Lynch over the radio feels terrible that he brought out the yellow, and he now is going to be parking it for the night.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, to have that happen because it was looking to be a very, interesting race as far as strategy wise. But now we see the field bunched back up to the top two. You're coming to pit road. This pit stop is going to be huge to see which of those two you know, gets out in front and potentially maybe controls the rest of this race.
Take that back. Actually, John Lynch going to get back out on track. He is not giving up, but he is 4 laps down in a spot where he is most likely not going to be able to get back out on track. As a lot of drivers going to be trying to go with a wave around. 5 drivers able to come into pit road to get service done. But now Doug Tuttle, Kyle Smith, also Patrick Hernandez, and Brendan Gregg all thinking about taking a wave around here. And here we go. Patrick Hernandez, Merrick Watchhorn. Will there be another yellow to save Patrick Hernandez, or is it going to go a lap down extremely quick because you're so off pace? Patrick Hernandez is going to have to go to pit road within 8 laps once we go green again. And it's this is gutsy. Here we go.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where like there's going to be one more pit stop regardless. But if you haven't come down now and you have to pit in about per se 8 to 12 laps, that's still going to put you in a position where you're not going to make it where you have to do an additional one more stop. So it, it is kind of a really rough spot right now.
And into pit road is going to be Patrick Hernandez, not taking the wave around. Brandon Gregg, though, and also that of Carroll, both going to be trying to take their wave arounds. So they're going to be asking and praying for a quick caution to come out. But now, Matt, for Merrick Watchhorn, this now puts him in a tricky spot because Elliot Drummond, he now has a second life now. He now has an opportunity to fight with Merrick Watchhorn. And also, you've got the sneakiest, fastest driver on track, that of Alec Duffins, who's now going to be in the mix as he's been on a recovery run after his incidents with John Lynch at the start of the race. I mean, here we go. The cards are all out. Let's see who's going to fold. Who's going to try to go for it all.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how does Alex drive around around these championship drivers. So again, it's one of those things where if you're not part of the championship, you can be maybe a little bit aggressive, force those championship drivers into a spot where maybe they have to relinquish a spot and maybe not put themselves into a rough spot. But we have seen Merrick really these whole playoffs not budging and not allowing anyone to really bully him around.
You have been watching the Twigi iRacing series. This is the championship race of the season on the Blitz Racing Network. My name's Sam Dyer. With me is Matt Dyer, who's also producing tonight's race. This is the championship race. 4 drivers came in tonight, and the goal, be the furthest ahead of all your competitors left in the championship. And those 4 drivers being Merrick Watchhorn, Elliot Drummond, Jacob Elkins. Those 3 drivers in our top 3, and they're going to be drivers that are up front. Patrick Hernandez is the 4th driver, and he's the first car lap down all the way back in 8th place. As these drivers are set, ready to go. I mean, Matt, less than that, coming up to 55 laps to go for these drivers here very quickly. Go time. 1 more pit stop to go. This is when all of this season, 26 races, all come down to this. Who is winning this championship? Who's going to be clutch at a track that really doesn't get ran that often anymore because this is the old configuration of Atlanta. But man, does it still put on a great show, and we can't wait to see who is going to be crowned a champion. As the pace truck is off, let's get back to green flag racing here at Atlanta. They're bunched up, stacked up, and Merrick Watchhorn is gone for the 91.
A really good jump from him. Really puts him in a position where he could take it a little bit easy, or not so much easy, but it definitely put him in a position where he can now just relax and maybe just try to run his line. But as we see Elliott trying to force to the bottom to put Merrick on the outside and take advantage of the shorter way around.
Trying to utilize these fresh tires on the inside, have the grip. Also, the track temp update on that. Again, this track temp was around 102 when this race started. Matt, it's almost dropped by over 20 degrees. We're at 86 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temp. It continues to cool off, and maybe that's going to help with the grip. As here comes the 29 machine, going to be side by side. Too much momentum. Merrick Watchorn conquers, defends, and here we go again.
Yeah, it was a good try from Elliott. Now it's the spot where watch and see maybe where Barrick is maybe messing up and has a potential, for you to get by him, but it's just so hard, to bet against that 91, which has been so strong, this whole race.
And our top three all just put down their fastest laps of the races. Merrick Watchhorn put the fastest lap down of a 30.855, but with that extra speed means that that can be hurting you on the long run, which keeps our eyes back to fourth place. Jacob Elkins, who's 2 seconds back, maybe he's given up too much time as he's trapped in a hornet's nest of his own as our front two continue to try to pull away from the rest of the field. To three, going to be that Merrick Watchhorn. Elliott Drummond, going to be your front two. Alec Duffin's going to be still lingering behind. He's kind of waiting to see how these tires for our front two are going to evolve. As after that last, that of Duffin's going to be closing in just slightly. As they continue to race this one out, 52 laps to go. And everyone's trying to see how do you stack up with drivers around you. Really, it's between our front two of Merrick Watchhorn, Elliott Drummond. They've been the top two coming into the playoffs, so we knew that they were going to be the heavy favorites. And we come to this championship race, they've still been the heavy favorites. We've seen that of Patrick Hernandez fight to get himself up front, but just too much issues tackling the 19, where he is now trapped a lap down. We've seen the 9 of Jacob Elkins be a threat at moments. But Matt, I mean, it's really just been the Watchhorn and Drummond show for the majority of the tail end of the regular season coming into the playoffs. Elkins showed promise, but I'm not surprised that it's these two here late in this race. 50 laps to go.
Yeah, it's been a solid performance for both of them, and really, it just shows to how good these two people are. Always we have smoke down the backstretch. I'm not sure what that was from, but it can be very distracting. And really, these two have shown that they are the cream of the crop all season long. And yeah, again, just like you said, we're not surprised to see these two fighting for the champion.
Got an update on what that smoke was. It was Brandon Carroll who came into pit road to get service done, who then got loose, spun out on their own, and luckily no yellow was thrown. 49 laps to go. And Elliott Drummond, as well as Merrick Watchhorn, kind of gets into that talking point again of air. How is the dirty air affecting these drivers, or is it affecting these drivers? And on top of that, tire wear. How is these drivers? We're 10 laps in. They're still putting down some screamer laps compared to what the rest of the field is doing. I'm kind of shocked by how much they're putting into this run. And a driver I'm getting concerned about is Jacob Elkins, who continues to fall deeper into the clutches of having some issues, and as well, extreme right side damage is for the 9.
It's just unfortunate for him, but it's almost kind of have to be glad that you made it this far into the playoffs. But again, it's just these two up front have been shown just how good they have been. But just go back to the point that you said with the air, it definitely is affecting. And it seems like Merrick is really watching where Elliott is driving and kind of readjusting his line to try to take off the air of Elliott, to make Elliott work a little bit harder as we see the gap between them start to build, and he's doing exactly that.
And issues deeper in the field as the 2 of Brennan Gregg, last car on the lead lap, gets some extreme damage by running into Doug Betts, who had gotten into the outside wall, slowly crept down and clobbering that of the two machine. And drivers are irritated. They're mad, and the field continues to shrink. But the two that we know are threatening for the championship. It's Merrick Watchorn, Elliott Drummond continue to race this thing out. And as well into pit road, the 22 of Dennis Crosby. So that's four drivers, all having three drivers into pit road in a blink of an eye. We went from 14 drivers on track. Well, let's just say we're down to 11 now to the end of this race, potentially.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle, for essentially with them doubling the length of the race, it makes it to an endurance race, and we're seeing now who is the cream of the crop, and it's exactly how it's been all season with these two at the front.
The shorter races, it kind of allowed for little mistakes. It really imploded. But if you saw some of these top drivers see their race be thrown away, it gave opportunities. But man, I got to say, for these fast drivers, they're just quick. In any small mistake, they've been able to rebound just because of the length of this race. It's allowed them to come back. 44 laps to go. Let's make it 43 as they cross the line. And our top three all within less than a second and a half from one another. But Elliott Drummond is now starting to fall into that long run lull that the 29 has been dealing with for the majority of this race, which is the fact that Merrick Watchorn is just too fast on the long run.
Yeah, definitely. The bigger of a gap that Merrick can put between him and Elliott, it now starts to work, and the pendulum starts to swing in his favor. Where the bigger the gap, maybe potentially the longer the wait he can have. Because remember during the last green flag pit stop, he pitted 2 laps after Drummond and was able to pull out almost a 5 second gap again. So it's now who is going to be the person that maybe makes that first pit stop. If Drummond can keep it relatively close and maybe be the first one to come into pit road, or maybe even close enough where he could be the last one to pit road and not lose too much time, it kind of is really just going to come down to these pit stops. How well can you get in and off pit road? As we see Alex now, you get back Drummond. Now it kind of begs the question: if you're Merrick, you're loving the fact that their two are fighting back there.
And Alec Daffins has been a driver that's been just lingering a little bit further back. It's allowed our front two to really burn off their tires. That last time by is for one machine, 48 on the truck, has been quick. About that of 2/10 faster. We'll see this go around as it was again another 2/10 faster was this one, and he's starting to close in on this gap. And Matt, it might not be a winner that wins the championship, and that's kind of the joy of a one lap dash is it's all about for the championship about beating out the other competitors that are those final four. And for Merrick Watchorn, he just needs to beat out Drummond, and he's beat out Elkins and Patrick Hernandez. And that of Dolphins is not his competitor that he needs to worry about.
No, absolutely not. And right now, if Alex gets to you, maybe you just let him go by and maybe not focus so much on winning the race, but really the championship has to come into mind. But now with that gap starting to come down that much quicker, it you don't want to battle Alex too much, potentially to let Drummond get close enough to where maybe he can kind of sneakily find his way into the pits and maybe catch Merrick off guard.
As the drivers continue to race this thing out, if they're going to go as far as they can on fuel, these drivers are expected to come into pit road in the next 10 to 12 laps. But if they want to shorten that gap, be the first one to hit pit road, that is going to be in the next 5 to about that is 6 laps is when we're expecting some drivers to think about potentially hitting pit road if you're deeper in the field. If you're Jacob Elkins, that's your only strategy is to pit as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's maybe something that maybe you pit and just hope that when it cycles back through, maybe there's another caution later on. But it begs the question now of when do you pit? It's one of those things where we've seen Merrick have pace consistently throughout the whole run. So I think for him, you really have to wait to see when Elliott first goes in or when Alex goes in, and then base off your run off that. Because right now, Alex is showing very good speed here at the end of the race.
It's no longer 2/10, it's just 1/10 that go around, but the speed is certainly there. But now we're going to see if Merrick Watchhorn, how does he want to race this thing out? Because between the gap between the 91 and the 29, that is the true gap for the championship. It is a second and a half. That is giving up just one lap. If anything, Merrick can allow Drummond to pit, have a one lap advantage on tires, and he still would be equal with where the drivers are sitting right now on pace. So, if it's 91, he's in a very good spot if he continues on with the pace that he's going. As we are also going to be finding ourselves again 3 laps away from the window to be taking it to the end. As about to hit for these drivers. We started out with 18 drivers in this race. We're down to just 11, and 6 of those drivers are on the lead lap. 2 still have an opportunity to get their lap back if a caution comes out, and 1 driver going for a championship, 1 going for a win, and Dolphins is there trying to make this pass, and there goes that 48 machine to the inside. This is the first attempt to take that lead position, and Merrick Watchhorn still fighting for that spot, which is an interesting call for the 91. But I would say, Matt, clean air is the factor for the 91 and why he's being so aggressive.
Yeah, it is, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're battling so hard to keep the lead that maybe it kind of puts Alex in a spot where he doesn't want to budge either, and it maybe potentially like takes you out. So it's kind of a thing where we give and take where you have to set the win aside. Oh, as we see Alex get loose, that's going to be also a big thing to look out for. Is late in the run, people have gotten pretty loose. But if you're Merrick, do you want to put yourself in a position, especially in a risky situation that he's put himself all playoffs long of trying to trust other people around you, or do you let them go by?
This was something you touched on last week, and you kept on harping on it. Merrick Watchhorn being so aggressive. He's willing to put himself on the line. He's done it so many times, but for a championship, for being the most dominant driver, he is certainly putting himself in the riskiest spot, having a driver to his quarter panel, to his inside, where we've seen plenty of drivers overcorrect and come back up to that outside wall.
And we saw it. What on lap 6 of this race, Alex is not afraid to stick his nose in there and allow you to determine whether or not there is going to be an accident or wreck happening. So Alex is just as aggressive, and when you put two aggressive drivers right next to each other, there's always mayhem to pursue it.
And just like that, maybe clear, not clear enough. They'll still fight to stay side by side. And poor Elliott Drummond, his tires have been so worn out that he has not been able to even close in, even with the aggressive side by side racing.
Yeah, but maybe it was to see a little another wiggle from the 48. Maybe you kind of sneakily dive into the pits here and maybe trying to catch Merrick off guard, and him battling will cause him to be a lot slower than what he wants to be. So maybe this is a opportunity for Drummond or anyone else that could potentially snag a spot to. But also, the thing with Alex on the bottom, it puts Merrick in a spot where he cannot react to Drummond to come down to pit road like immediately. So as long as Alex is on the inside, that puts Merrick in a spot where he has to really slow down coming to pit road.
Now, Matt, I love strategies. I love seeing how you could really influence a race with teamwork. And, with the fact that Alec is just holding this inside lane, technically, this would help up Jacob Elkins. He makes the pass clear for the lead. But if, like you said, if he had stayed down low, he could have defended and held off the 91 as long as he wanted. As Watchhorn gets too aggressive, moves up, and almost clips that of the 48.
Yeah, he he's been running that outside, and the first time he goes to run that inside line, trying to pass someone, it just his right front said no, 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 and it slid up the track.
Into pit road, first of our playoff contenders, going to be that of Jacob Elkins, as trouble strikes for the 19. Patrick Hernandez His championship hopes are done after slamming the outside wall back on lap 127.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, but you had to be happy with his performance. Yes, he finished second, and really, as we see Merrick Watchorn, coming down pit road as well as Ellie Drummond.
And for Elliott Drummond, that is as far as he can go. And that is got to be heartbreaking. Hoping to see that 91 have more issues, have a little bit more life maybe in the 29's tires. Wasn't there. And Merrick Watchorn, as long as it can be smooth out of the track, no black flag penalties for that of entering or speeding under pit road. The 91, the only black flag penalty that he's got to be worried about is making sure he exits and make sure he crosses that merge line before coming up onto the racing surface.
Yeah, it's very tricky. This apron in turn 1 and 2 here at Atlanta, it's very tricky to get snap, real quick snap loose, like coming off the pit road. So especially on colder tires here, it's gonna be interesting to see how well can he manage at the beginning of this run.
He's back out on track. No penalty for an unsafe pit exit. And now the 91 is on full send cruise control mode and hoping and banking that no yellow flag comes out as Merrick Watchorn now just sits in a perfect spot for himself. 26 laps to go as here comes that Dolphin as well as Maurice Million, Tuttle, as well as Kyle Smith and others coming into pit road.
I mean, now that your bets have made and your money stop is finished, really it's just hoping it stays green from here on out. But as we've seen consistently in this league, really all season long, there's always a chance of a late race caution.
Strategy always seems to be thrown away at some point. But honestly, I'm looking at this field. A lot of those quote unquote troublesome drivers that would usually bring out that late yellow, they're starting to see themselves phasing out of this race as John O'Lynch still out there on track. But Kyle Smith's going to be calling it a night. John O'Lynch is going to finish inside of our top 10. And he was 4 laps down. And with so many drivers calling it a night early, this is wild to see for some of the drivers to just have no give up in them. And Patrick Hernandez, update for the 19. He has now parked it. He is done for the night. Championship hopes are done as well. We are left with just 3 drivers hunting for that championship. And that American Watchhorn is in the catbird seat with 4.5 seconds over Elliott Drummond and just 2.5 seconds over that of Alec Duffins.
Yeah, with how because it's gonna be interesting with because during the last caution, obviously everyone came down pit road, and we saw how quick Alex was at the end of a run on really equal footing as far as tires was as far as pit wise, and now that he's 2 laps for tires, it's going to be interesting to see like how well he does. How well like does he close up because he can now take advantage of his tires a little bit more.
And John O'Lynch, how will he block, defend, and he won't. He'll give up that inside line. Or will he? Here's the hard pinch move by the 90 machine. He keeps it aggressive, and he's going to keep that 91 to his P's and Q's for a hot second. Hit the dotted line. Here's going to be a slower driver, and it's going to be Carroll not sure where to place himself.
I mean, a little bit of gamesmanship for the teammates as we see him starting to battle back, but if you're Merrick right now, you are absolutely fuming right now inside the helmet. But right now, you got to keep it cool, calm.
Oh,
Oh
contact hits
no!
him into the wall. And you had a sense, John O'Lynch, with the way that he was racing, and what in the world? Caution flag thrown, Merrick Watchhorn influencing this race even more. Merrick Watchhorn, he removed the 54 car without them even being really making any cautions, and then throws out the yellow, completely rigging and influencing this race. It's the 91. I get that you got wrecked, but that's a driver being aggressive, and he gets removed. Merrick says, I'll remove everyone. I might be the only one on the server. I'll take the championship.
You knew it was going to be aggressive and tight all race long, and now with this late race caution, everyone's going to be coming down for a fresh coat of rubber.
I mean, I get it from team orders. You got to be aggressive there, but I mean, for Merrick, this doesn't look good. This is not the first time that he's done this throughout the playoffs, so throwing out yellows, influencing the race. When he gets in trouble, he'll throw out a yellow, help himself. But if someone else that's in a championship condition, he won't throw a yellow for them. So this is a very much a rigged type of a race here. This isn't good to be seen. But Merrick Watchorn now has set the stage, Matt. We talked about late yellows coming now. Well, the 91 threw it out. He's going to have a fast repair to utilize. And now let's see what he's going to do here to the end.
And some major blinking there from America as he came down pit road. Now it kind of puts him in an awkward spot too now because he is going to have to use his fast repair. Now, if he has any more issues, he's going to have no more fast repair now. So also with that too, it maybe puts it's going to be it's interesting because Alex and a few other people have stayed out on their older tires. So maybe there's some people who are maybe a little bit less on tires. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I think it's because this is the last set for Merrick Watchorn that he's taking. So everyone else is thinking, well, if there's another late yellow, if we get a couple of laps green, another late yellow comes out, I still have that set to work with. And we are down to just that of 8 drivers on track. Only 6 of them will be on the lead lap. And for Merrick Watchorn and Elliott Drummond, they're going to be 5th, 6th with fresh tires. That Jacob Elkin's going to be in 3rd. Well, the stage is set, Matt. I know it's a very not the way we thought this race was going to go. But we'll now see who's going to get the win, because it seems like for Merrick Watchorn, he's doing everything in his power to make sure he gets win number 12 and the championship.
Yeah, but now it's going to be, this kind of brings, Elkins back into the mix, which is going to be interesting because we know how aggressive, everyone else, wants to be. And as long as you can keep it clean, and if, if Drummond and, the Watchhorn did take their final set, if there goes 5 laps green and Elkins can take a fresh set of tires, it's going to swing majorly, into his advantage. So this race may only have 18 laps, but there's still a long ways to go.
There again, and we also have overtime if need to. We have got 3 attempts to finish out this race. With the amount of cars that are, I mean, the amount of trucks that are left out on track, I don't even think we'll have enough overtime attempt. I think we'll run out of trucks before overtime attempts. But man, is this race turned on its head as drivers are getting set and ready to get rolling. We wait for that one to go meter. As I'm going to step aside for a quick moment, Matt, I will be right back for this restart.
Yeah, no problem, Sam. But yeah, it's what has this race turned upside down with everything that's going on, but also, Alex, you know, blinking in and out there a little bit. I maybe thought he went down pit road for a second, but a bit of a risky call for some of these people who stayed out. But if it does stay green, it's going to be a lot easier for them. But we still only have 6 people on the lead lap, so even with Drummond and Watchorn taking tires, they're not going to drop too far back from the lead. So I fully expect them to get back to the front here relatively quickly. Once we go back to green, so it it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to broadcast. I hope everyone else at home is enjoying the broadcast and having fun. But if you get a chance, why not say who do you got for these final 17 laps? Go ahead and comment it in the chat. But it's it's this race has just gotten a whole lot more interesting. As the lights on the pace truck are off, we are going to be going back to green flag racing here. It's with really 16 laps to go here. Really, it's still anyone's race to the finish. But if it stays green from here on out with the fresh tires of Elliott, Drummond, and Merrick Watchorn, it's definitely going to be full advantage to them from here on out.
Here on out, pace truck is off, and we're green and already a little bit of shuffling going on. Elliott Drummond going to be poking through the middle, but up front, going to be the drivers with old tires. up front. And for Merrick Watchorn, he's got to be picture perfect trying to go through this field, not to get into any trouble. But here we go, Matt. Old tires for the 991, going to be on the fresh tires. Already some poking of the draft. The 91, he's taken off and gone.
Yeah, well, it's going to see like how aggressive are some of these people like going to be because ooh, that was pretty close between the 91 and the 9 there on the exit. But we all know how aggressive Alex is, so we're going to see how what is going to be the patient level from here on out on how you pass these guys who maybe are on a little bit older rubber. It's going to be interesting to see as we see really as long as Merrick doesn't pass Alex, that puts kind of oh, they see it real tight there on the exit of turn 4, but we see Merrick get to the inside.
And you're making it to the inside, but can he clear the pass immediately? He's going to be clear at this moment. Here comes that of Elliott Drummond as well, going to be on the inside. And Daffin's going to be backing off, but Drummond gets loose. He wasn't able to fully clear, and he had to get squirrely there as drivers get themselves rolling once again as black flags get cleared. Matt, issues for drivers. Black flags are cleared because drivers actually jumped the start.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my goodness.
if
More
if
influence.
yeah, if you jump the start, yo the the restart zone is very strict, and if you do not follow it to a T, you're supposed to serve the black flag, but as we've seen within the last 20 laps, you know, ruled the rule book and the rules are thrown out the window.
Hey, I gotta say, Michael Massey is proud up wherever if he's watching this race, he's happy with rule books being thrown out the window because we're wanting a motor race, and that's what we're getting. And it's gonna be Merrick Watchorn and Elliott Drummond, two different lanes, 12 laps to go. And really, it's in the hands of Merrick Watchorn, who threw out the intentional yellow after he didn't like the fact that he got hit by a lap car that was trying to race him aggressively, which would have gave that of Elliott Drummond a championship. But then a yellow flag was thrown by the 91, who's been influencing this race a ton. I would call this a rigged championship if the 91 finds himself into victory lane and wins the championship as 11 laps to go here this evening.
Yeah, it's tough to say. You definitely don't want to see a championship tarnished by throwing a caution relatively quickly and letting your emotions get in the way. But it, I mean, it is hard to say just right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm calling it a rigged situation is because we saw Patrick Hernandez had his issues. Elkins has had issues of being put in the wall, and there were no yellows thrown for their issues. Yet when the 91, who's a race admin, owner of the league, and he gets into any type of trouble, yellow flags thrown, it just doesn't look good. As Elliott Drummond, he's trying every line, he's trying everything to try to close in on this gap, but it's just not really looking like he's able to find that little extra oomph as it is now 9 laps to go here this evening.
Yeah, he's been marginally quicker than Merrick, by a few hundredths, not by tens, but hundreds, and it's very minimal. He has been trying, different lines. At the beginning of the run, he was running that outside line, to maybe not wear his tires as much as Merrick was being on the inside, and then he's dropped down to the inside. But it's just so hard with how dominant that 91's been all race. It's tough to close that gap right now.
Are hard to bet against that of Merrick Watchorn as continues to try to pull away. 8 laps to go, and for that of Jacob Elkins, the questions of what if he had come into pit road, because the 9 machine, he had a set of tires, he was banking on a yellow flag to come out, but there's just not enough trucks out on track for a yellow flag to come out because they're just too spaced out from one another. And now for the 9, it is just a wait and watch. Your front 2 competitors race this out. It's now over a half a second. 7 laps to go.
Yeah, but but if you're Elkins and you don't have the straight up pace, to battle, the top 2 right now, it's I think a good call in hopes, but yeah, it is kind of it is a tricky situation because you definitely want to be in a position to give yourself the best shot at it, but understanding.
Oh, we might see a yellow. Brandon Carroll wrecked coming out of turn 4. He's very slow. Here come our leaders. Going to be blasted on by on the inside. He's the 10. And that won't bring out a yellow.
Oh
Oh, well, no, he
no!
comes up. And he took out Elliott Drummond. Oh, man. Well, the rigged race continues to get even worse.
I think that might be another kick out of the race because that was I'm
And
not sure what Braden Carroll was doing. Yeah, yes, I know he was slow, but
I mean, Brandon Carroll had been trying to bring out a yellow the whole entire race, and he finally found his opportunity by taking out, man, what a race, Matt. I mean,
it looks like he got
I,
loose going into 3, and this guy just was battling the car all the way through 3 and 4, but I'm not really 100% sure of what he was doing.
I don't know. Brandon Carroll, man, we've seen him in multiple different leagues, and I'm kind of not surprised that this happened, at least at some point. He has been notoriously known to do this in other leagues, and you know, what's ironic about this is I've also seen Merrick Watchhorn intentionally wreck people as well, but comes through. I think maybe with the timing that he came up, I think Merrick might have been his target, but got Elliott Drummond instead.
Yeah, you had high hopes for this race, and I don't know what happened within the last 20 laps, but and now put it's worked into Elkin's favor, who is now pitted for fresh rubber, and that right now, if you're Merrick Watchhorn, you are absolutely gutted right now.
You know, they always call, NASCAR F1 this year the silly season. Well, this certainly has gotten silly up in here as race admins or the radio are fuming on this situation this race has imploded into, as we've seen so many different bad situations just turn into worse and worse. And I hate to throw it on this, but I think a lot of these drivers, they're upset maybe on the fact that we saw race admins taking control of this situation. We saw Nos Patton be even allowed to race, even with his very poor I rating. He gets out on track. You remove him from this race when he was going to influence you for Merrick Watchhorn. Then once Merrick gets influenced in another situation, he finds himself, throwing out a yellow. And it's just been influence after influence as admins are helping themselves out more than trying to make this a fair situation. And now drivers fed up. They're causing wrecks, causing accidents. And now Merrick Watchhorn's on the back foot, which we've seen all playoffs long. It is going to be Jacob Elkins in the prime situation to try to go for a victory here tonight as drivers are starting to stack up. It's time to see. And in the racing official times, we'll see how this. I believe the lights might still be on. Yeah, the lights are still on. We're going to be going to overtime now.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. 'Cause remember last time they cleared all the black flags for the restart zone infraction. Now with another go at it, if they do end up clearing, some black flags for a restart violation, that kind of also raises some eyebrows as well.
Also, will they extend potentially this restart to allow Elliott Drummond to get his repairs? Again, Elliott Drummond did have a fast repair to work with. So and he's just about to get done with his toe and he's back out on track. He's 2 laps down. So technically they could push this and extend this. They haven't extended it yet. We're going into overtime either way. They could extend this and give Elliott Drummond an opportunity back on the lead lap. I mean, you might as well. You've already influenced this race enough. Why not give him another chance? As the race has officially been moved to overtime, ladies and gentlemen. There's no word on what they're going to do with Elliott Drummond, who is back out on track 2 laps down. And now the only driver that's left out on track with fast repairs is Maurice Gomillion and Doug Tuttle, who we haven't talked about all night long. They're in fourth and fifth position. Everyone else has used their fast repairs. But we are now into overtime. The rules are once we go green, it's a 2-lap run. If a yellow flag comes out on that first lap before we get the one to go indicator, then we will go into attempt number 2 of overtime. But if the white flag comes out, if the white flag comes out, and these drivers will be given free range. Wreck them. Doesn't matter how you do it. Whoever crosses the line first will get to victory lane and most likely win the championship as Merrick Watchhorn, 15 lap older tires than the rest of the field. He needs a hero run for this 91. He's going to be on the outside. It's Jacob Elkins in ninth in that number 9, second truck on the inside. If he can get by the 91, the championship is his. Into the restart zone. Drivers are taking off. It's time to go green flag racing. Overtime attempt number 1. Who's winning the Twigi iRacing Series Championship? Here we go. Shaw Racing in line, trying to figure out how to get by Merrick Watchhorn.
Yeah, you really got to use the fresh tires. Maybe as we see some massive blocking from Merrick, but I mean that is we saw at the beginning of the race from from Johnny O, but now we see some tight racing as he's forcing them on way on the outside. That momentum going to carry as we see the white flag come out.
White flag's in the air. Could Alec Duffins actually box it? Oh no! Merrick Watchhorn wrecking into Jacob Elkins. Shades exactly to what that of John O'Lynch did. And now Elkins gets to move on. He's racing this out. And all he needs to do is just make it to the line. And he's got the championship. It's all his. And oh man. Why did why did the caution come out? That's the same exact move. And the caution won't come out this time because it's under that of a white flag situation. Alec Delphins is going to get the win. Jacob Elkins gets the championship. And Merrick Watchhorn does not get to see a championship done at all. That is it. It is over. And, I mean, Matt, the silly season's over. Oh, my goodness.
I'm trying to pick my jaw off the floor. I know that happened so quickly. I'm not even sure what happened, but wow, that not what I expected. But congratulations to Alec for putting himself in a position to win, and which allowed you know the underdog, Jacob Elkins ends up coming out with the championship. So as we see as we see Elkins, spinning it on the inside grass, congratulations to him for finishing third, as as we will get to talk to him. But Shaw Racing wins the race and wins the championship.
Get to do some double burnouts for the double crowns here this evening. And what a finale here for the Twigi iRacing series. It kind of made sense the way that it was all going to go down. It was just chaos, pandemonium all over the place. And we are going to step aside for a quick moment. When we come back, we'll see who even wants to talk to us. It might only be Jacob Elkins as the tempers are flaring. That's what championship night gives us. And Jacob Elkins gets the championship. Alec Dolphins gets that of the win. Congratulations to both. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the silly end to the season and championship race. What a wild one it was. We're going to start things off with second place finisher, that of Doug Tuttle, to get his thoughts on how tonight went. And what a wild one it was. We got second place finisher Doug Tuttle with us. Doug, what a finish for yourself. Second place after that chaotic finish. Man, how does it feel coming away with the second place finish here this evening?
Well, in all honesty, we did not think that we would have anything for the end, and then we got those two really weird cautions that came out of it. But I mean, I'm ecstatic. I can't believe that we finished out the season as good as we did. Kind of sucks that we weren't in it for the championship, but I mean, Merrick, he's ran good races all season long. And Jacob has been right up there with him, right along with Patrick. So I mean, I was happy to see that one of those three guys won it. In all honesty, but I mean, it was good race all around.
I mean, Doug, what a race this was. I know it was changed in the middle of the week to extend this race, doubling the length that it was originally going to be in the longest race of the whole entire season. How was it trying to change on how long this race was with how many pit stops you all had to make as well?
Well, it definitely changed a lot for it because one of the things that I've had to learn is that I'm not a short lap count driver trying to come up with pit strategy and stuff like that. I like cars that I can handle for a very long run. So having a long race like this allowed me to be able to learn as much as I possibly could about the car. In the early parts of the race, I was more towards the back, but as it kept going on, I started seeing myself getting into the top 10, and the next thing I know, I'm in the top 5, and we're coming to that final caution, and it just kind of led on out to there. But with that amount of time, I was able to finally figure out what it is that this car is going to be able to do, and it makes me ecstatic for the next season. Can't wait to be able to get back out there, and I hope that we get to see a lot more fun racing with longer lengths in the future.
Yeah, so second season certainly looks like it's going to be a long season and potentially a long race. But Doug, congratulations on a second place finish to finish out the season. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to my wife, Jasmine. I mean, everybody that knows that got a chance to watch it. I got married at the end of August. Quite literally, I left my rehearsal dinner to get home 5, maybe 10 minutes before the race actually started that night, which was absolutely awesome. So I want to give a shout out to her, all the love and respect that I get from her. My son Dominic is also a huge fan of Twigi iRacing. I want to give a shout out to him because he's one of those people that he loves to be able to watch me learn how, or he wants to be able to learn how to race eventually. And he was actually pulling for Jacob tonight. So once I get off of here, I get to go tell him that his favorite driver ended up winning the championship. So he's going to sit there and I know he's going to have a blast with that one. Shout out to Merrick, awesome league buddy. You know I love racing with you. And definitely for Jacob. I know at times it kind of felt like you weren't going to win this thing, but I had enough faith in you that you were going to be able to get into it, buddy. Way to go.
Well, that is going to be the 86. Doug Tuttle, congratulations on second place and have a good one celebrating this second place finish and have a great rest of your off season and good luck into season 2.
All right, thank you.
As we go from that of second place, let's head to victory lane as we've got Alec with us. Alec, congratulations on the win. What a wild one for yourself. Before we get to how you're feeling about this race, we got to go all the way back to the start because that was some hard racing between yourself and John Lynch. What was going through your mind in those first 15 laps before the contact inevitably happened?
Yeah, I did some stuff I shouldn't have done there. I gotta apologize to him for that. He heat of the moment. I mean, he blocked me like 3 times. I got frustrated, and yeah, that's bum out. I shouldn't have done that. But thankfully after that, I was kind of able to regroup. We had another wreck after that, but I got sent to the back. Then I was able to drive my way through the field, and things played out my way towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, talking about coming to the end, it seemed like if that late caution didn't come out, you were one of the drivers to really truly watch out for. You had great long run pace. What was going through your mind though once you saw those late cautions blossom out?
Yeah, well, I was set to run Merrick back down there in that last run. Obviously, I ran down the run before that, but yeah, when that last caution came out, I was like, I'm gonna do the opposite of what Merrick does, because I knew I didn't really have the short run speed to run down, which obviously he got damaged, so I knew he was gonna pit. So I figured we would stay out there, and then with the other guys staying out, I knew the worst I was gonna finish was third, so I only really had one spot to lose, maybe even nothing if Elliott got around me. But yeah, then obviously caution came out about 10 laps after that with some, I guess you could say, unspeakable actions. And then yeah, we pit and Jacob pit and I restarted third. Basically, I had in Formula One terms a free pit stop basically, and I was able to get to the lead. And then obviously the last lap incident happened, but I was able to survive that and cruise to the win.
Yeah, speaking of that coming to that last attempt at the restart, what was any conversations going on with you in that of Jacob? Was there any conversation of trying to set up one another, or was it just, hey, good luck at the end of this race on wherever you finish?
Well, our goal is, initially I wanted to try and stay side by side with Merrick there because I knew I had the extra grip, I could do it, but I didn't really get the best restart. But even after that, I just kind of babied it through 1 and 2, just to try not to spin the car out. But I knew with the 10 lap fresher tires, I was going to be able to get a run on him. Obviously, I went to the highest side, come off 2 there. But the goal was basically just me try to make the move and then Jacob follow me. Because, I mean, obviously, I'm sure he'll want to win the race, but I mean, if he followed me, he'll be able to win the championship. So yeah, we just tried to just set up the pass there and work together, nose to tail. I mean, I guess ultimately I won the race and he got the championship. Not in the way we have hoped, but kind of more or less worked out in the end still.
It certainly did. Well, Alec, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I think guys for doing the broadcast, Merrick for putting on the league. I mean, obviously season finale, I know probably didn't end the way most people would like, but I mean, guess that's life. Congrats to my teammate Jacob on the championship. I know he didn't really went the way he would want to, but I mean, he didn't do anything intentional. He was probably gonna pass Merrick there anyway with the fresher tires, so hope he's not beating himself up too bad. And yeah, I think that's it.
Well, congratulations again on your win and good luck heading into the offseason.
Thank you, Sam.
As we go from victory lane, let's head to the championship trophy as we've going to be picking up that of Jacob Elkins. Jacob, what a day for yourself, rolling a perfect in bowling, and then you find yourself winning a championship. And I mean, what a wild night we could ask for. We were kind of calling it the silly rigged championship if Merrick found himself in a victory lane, but the chips just lied perfectly for you. Congratulations. How are you feeling after that chaotic run at the end?
Oh, well, thank you for mentioning the bowling thing. That's a pretty big accomplishment for me. But anyway, I just feel so bad for Elliott and Merrick. I did not deserve to win this. Elliott did not deserve to get wrecked. None of that should have happened. That was just complete bull. But I mean, it happened, and I came and won. So, I mean, I guess I'm happy, but I feel so bad for Merrick and Elliott. I really do.
I mean, Jacob, if we take away some of the regular season stats, we only look at the playoffs. You've been Mr. Consistent at the end of these runs. I mean, Matt's been calling you kind of the Kevin Harvick of this series with the way that you find yourself at the end of these races performing so well. How does it feel knowing that at the end of the day, you were some of the most consistent running, and even with some of the shenanigans that happened here tonight, you found yourself with the championship?
I mean, I do the same thing. I try to do the same thing every race. Try to stay not too far from the front, but not in the back, and just be there at the end, because that's what matters the most. You can't win it at the beginning of the race. You can't win at the middle of the race. You can only win it at the end. But yeah.
Well, Jacob, again, congratulations on this run, as well as a third place finish this evening. And before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
I want to shout out you guys. You guys do an amazing job broadcasting. And my team, Shaw Racing Products, my teammates, Alec definitely helped me a bit there because he was the orchestrator for the pit call there. I would have pitted, and I don't think I would have been up there to cause that incident with Merrick. But yeah, that's about it. Also, Merrick for putting on the league. He puts in so much work to this league. It's insane. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, that is going to be the final call from the 9 machine, your Twigi iRacing Series champion. It is the number 9 of Jacob Elkins. Congratulations, Jacob, and have a good one celebrating this.
Yep, thank you guys. Thank you.
As the 9 gets that fun celebrating this in the off season, we'll take a quick glance at how the drivers finished out this race. As a wild one, crazy, unpredictable at most times, but it's going to be that of Alec Dolphin's going to be finding himself getting the win. Doug Tuttle going to get second. Jacob Elkins, your championship winner, going to get third. Fourth goes to Maurice Million. John Buwalda Jr., Matt, we talked about how he needed to have a good run. If he just finished, he would get it. Well, fifth place goes to the 5 machine with Merrick Watchorn coming away with 6th only. Then we look at the rest of the field. There's where Elliott Drummond lied after being wrecked out by that of Brendan Carroll. He will finish in 7th, with Brendan Carroll getting 8th. John Lynch, after his contact with Merrick Watchorn, will finish 9th. Kyle Smith, Patrick Hernandez, and as well as Brendan Gray going to be finishing out your top 12, as a lot of drivers just were not able to finish out tonight. The race, the marathon, so long, so difficult, as you see here, of Dennis Crosby, Doug Betts, as well as many of others finishing out this run. I mean, Matt, they're late. It kind of turned into a wild race that looked rigged at times with how this run was going. I think the biggest thing is kudos on getting through this season, but Merrick might want to invest into getting someone to be a permanent race control and not have the power in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when you're trying to put your full focus into driving and trying to admin at the same time. But I mean, it's understandable. Like we've seen this, all season long. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where like you definitely want a neutral site, to maybe do some race control. But I mean, it's always so hard.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, hey, if you're going to call a caution when you get involved in a wreck, maybe give the admin control to all championship drivers whenever they feel like they need a yellow. But tonight, kind of shrouded over controversy, not the way they wanted this season to end. It was the longest race of the season, and certainly the tempers built up in this championship race, but it's going to be that of Jacob Elkins winning the championship, beating out the other 3 contenders, and able to say that he is the winner of this season. Season 2 just around the corner. But for us here at the Blitz Racing Network, want to give thank you for allowing us to cover the Twigi iRacing series. Matt, we got to cover for the majority of the season, but sadly we will not be coming back for season 2. But it was a wild journey, and it was a pleasure getting to be able to call it.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to Merrick and all the drivers for allowing us to do this, and really allowed us to have a very interesting and fun season, because it was a lot of fun to commentate over the season.
It was, and honestly, yes, tonight might be shrouded over controversy, but next season it's going to be longer season, longer races, and honestly, if you're looking to try to test out your racing skills, the Twigi iRacing series could be the place for you on Friday nights. But for myself, Sam Zyer, for Matt Zyer, thank you so much, and everyone else that's helped at the Blitz Racing Network to help us cover throughout this season. Again, your winner of this race is the one of Alec Duffins, but the championship goes to the number 9 of Jacob Elkins. Congratulations to you both. Sorrows and sorries to those that didn't get the finishes that they wanted. But for tonight, thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your offseason. Have a great rest of your night. And we will see you on your next Blitz Racing Network race.